Hi everyone, this is Team Scrubs on FHIR, and today Jay and I, Pramodith, are here to present our project improving clinical trial recruitment through FHIR and natural language processing. The problem our project aims at tackling is solving how clinical trials can recruit patients in a much more timely and easier manner, as well as how patients can sign up for clinical trials without facing the confusion of which trial they're eligible for, and also reduce the workload by the amount of work that nurses have to do to identify the right patients. Clinical trials in general are extremely expensive and they take up a huge number of resources in identifying the right patients. Any delay could cost the clinical trial up to $1 million more, and it will also have the additional downside of the drug being released much later into the market. Ideally, we would like a faster way of identifying the patients that are apt or suitable to a particular clinical trial based on their medical conditions. We would like clinical trials to be more smooth and faster, and we would like drugs to be released to the market in a timely manner. So we propose an application that makes use of CQL and Clarity NLP that are two query-based languages built on top of FHIR for identifying patients and which clinical trials they're eligible for. Ideally, we would like the user to enter the patient's ID and then select which study she might be eligible to participate in, and then make use of your queries to extract the right information and then display whether they match the conditions required or they don't. We're making an app of the first of its kind that provides a sort of search facility. We plan to make use of both structured and unstructured data to parse through the records. So JSON and XML are examples of structured data, and reports and notes are examples of unstructured data. We are using SQL and LPQL because they're very similar to SQL and would take very less time for a developer to learn. We also plan to make the entire project open source so that people can contribute to it in the future. Our users include nurses who are interested or take part in the clinical trials. They're set up and help patients navigate through the entire process, and also any other healthcare professionals that are involved in the process of clinical trials.
So here are a couple of our potential competitors. So big tech corporations like Amazon that have a huge experience in doing NLP and working with healthcare, but they're known for not being HIPAA compliant. Big data healthcare, like the ones listed below, they're just starting to use NLP, are in the process of implementing it, but their business case doesn't match our use cases for NLP. A lot of smaller companies typically don't cater towards healthcare. So here's our first case study. A patient, he has a condition which isn't really being treated by the medicine prescribed by his doctor. So the doctor is kind of seeing hey, what kind of new medicine that's coming out from clinical trials would be better for this patient. And we can use the EMR data that's collected by physicians and nurses, and we can use our tool to find out which criteria of clinical trials they're fitting for and what kind of medicine would be really good for them. Our second case study, so FDA regulations require patients on using clinical trial medicines to be monitored for up to 15 years. And pretty much we can use that EMR data that's being collected to make those regulatory forms, so it's less effort on their side. So benefits: it saves a lot of time because it expedites finding people for clinical trials. It helps patients find more suitable medicines for them, and also reduces the time spent on things like filling out regulatory forms. It saves a lot of money because less money spent on finding patients, and clinical trials are being shorter, so less money is being spent on it, and they're not being canceled. This is a huge help for clinicians, pharmaceutical companies, researchers, and clinical trial sources because it helps expedite the entire clinical trial process, and also more medicines are being pushed out. So here's our Gantt chart. So this kind of displays all the deliverables for this class and project, and as soon as one deliverable is done, we start the next one. In the beginning, we're focusing on a lot of research and identifying tools and languages for this project, and meeting up with our mentor. After that, we're kind of focusing on the design for our UI and also the development for the project. We plan on deploying our first one after deliverable 2, and doing our final deployment after deliverable 3 and while deliverable 4 and 5 are happening.